kids are asking, like, I remember growing up, and, you know, you learn about the presidents and what the presidents do, and the history, and how are we even going to deal with it? How, I don't understand. I don't understand.
History's gonna be like math is for most of our parents.
Seriously.
Remember my mom complaining about new math when I was, younger. It's gonna be like that when we're doing history with our kids.
Pay attention, because you're going to get a lot of questions.
Oh yeah, definitely.
My parents lived through the 60s and 70s, and when I asked them about it, they were like, it was just life.
Well, that's boring. I want to hear about the Red Scare.
Yeah. So pay attention, because like this stuff is going to come up. This stuff is going to come up for the next 1,000 years.
Oh, definitely. Archaeologists and historians and students in elementary school are going to be so confused by the last 5 years and the next 5 years.
These moments will be as legendary as like the Greeks at Thermopylae, the major battles of the like stuff.
Or even recent stuff like the Boston Tea Party,
Yeah, it's
like
gonna be
Lexington and Concord.
forever. It's going to be part of our history forever, as long as books and media continues. How excited for you?
Oh, very, very exciting.
Call this meeting to order. Ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by my Boy Scout.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you wish to participate in the invocation, please remain standing. And let's look to the Lord in prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this opportunity to come together as a city council, God. We ask that you would bless each and every one of us, Heavenly Father, that we would do what's right for this city, Heavenly Father, that we will move forward, God. And we thank you now for the people coming together, Heavenly Father, Lord, for open, honest discussions, Heavenly Father. And we thank you, God, for you just blessing us, Heavenly Father, and blessing this city, God. And we ask that you keep your hedge of protection on us, God, and lead and guide us, Heavenly Father. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen. All right. Roll call.
Councilmember Scott.
Here.
Councilmember Klink.
Here.
Councilmember Mintz.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bilderrain.
Here.
Mayor Wright.
Here.
All present.
Okay. Closed session announcements. We did the city clerk's evaluation, and it came out very positive, so that's a good thing. It'll be on the agenda next week. I'm not next week. Next meeting. Changes to the agenda?
Oh, actually, I take it back, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have our sheriff here this evening to give a presentation to the council.
Okay. He gonna do that first?
Yes.
Okay. Announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on demand on the City of 29 Palms website at www.29palms.org. You may also live stream this meeting by going on the city website and clicking on the meeting agendas link. Awards, presentation, appointments, and proclamations. First, we're going to have a presentation from Captain.
That's the sheriff.
Sheriff.
Sheriff, you're on.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all the council members. And more importantly, it's good to be with all of my fellow Wildcats. So thank you for indulging me. I want to talk about a few things that I'm really trying to invest in and things that certainly support the city. Talk a little bit about homelessness, our HOPE team, mental health, Laura's Law, and a few things that legislatively are occurring that I think is going to help us deal with a problem that we're all very sensitive to, and that's, of course, our homeless population. Recently, one of our state senators, Eggman, had some legislation passed that what affects law enforcement is called the term of gravely disabled. What was significant with that legislation is allowing the term gravely disabled to be applied to those that are experiencing just not mental health issues, but substance abuse issues as well. So when you think about that, it's really taking these people that have these repeat issues that shouldn't be in jail and should probably get help from other places, but summarizes it by basically taking the problem to the court, giving the court recommendations, and really sentencing those people to medical treatment, getting them off our streets and truly getting them the help they need. So if you're thinking about it from the human condition standpoint, we're certainly looking out for our friends and neighbors, but doing it in a manner where we're involving the court and really requesting that the court steps in and takes action with that individual, so it's not the revolving door that we're all seeing. Why is that important? Our HOPE team encounters a number of people, and on average, and I'll just take an average year, about 6,000. When you take that down into singular contacts, it drops the number down to about 21 or 2,200 individuals that we're tracking at any given time. By the time we house 500 to 600 of those willing to take our help, we have that 2,100-ish or so individuals that are left over. And if we really take a good look at those folks that don't want help, there's comorbidity between mental health issues and substance abuse issues. So when we're talking about Eggman's bill and a few things, it kind of gives your law enforcement officers a few more tools to be able to get those people in front of the court. And we're handling that mostly through our HOPE team. Also, recently, I lobbied the board for Laura's Law, and Laura's Law is similar to what you've heard about Care Court that the governor introduced, and Riverside County is one of the pilot counties for that. But what Laura's Law addresses that Care Court doesn't is that comorbidity that I just spoke about with substance abuse. So there's a lot of things going on in the homeless environment, and it's my hope, since your law enforcement officers there in 29 Palms meet homelessness in the streets, that we're giving them more tools and we're building capacity in the county to be able to try to take care of those folks and then put some authority behind it by involving the courts. Some other good things that are going on out there in our area is 5 deputies to the county area. Supervisor Rao's been instrumental in not just those 5 deputies, but the year prior to that, bringing in 2 deputies for transportation purposes alone to the major jails. So if your deputy in 29 Palms was to encounter a subject that needed to be taken to Ward B down in Colton, it takes your officer off the street for a significant period of time. Rather than doing that, we have folks that are available to transport them down. And when we talk about the 5 deputies we're adding, we call it backup. And of course, you're probably thinking of it in terms of not just backup, but mutual aid. We'll have more deputies under Captain Warwick's command that if any of our cities, Yucca Valley or 29 Palms, need the assistance, we'll have more people in the county areas. And all of you know, you've all been there for many years, our county area and our patrol beats are very vast. So having more deputies in that area to be able to help all of us is a good thing. And more importantly, I also wanted to talk to you and basically say thank you for the K-9 program that both 29 Palms and Yucca Valley entered in and did that mutual agreement with that K-9. And what I can't thank you enough for is I get an opportunity to, of course, talk to your city manager and talk to the city managers really across the 14 contract cities that we have. And to see everybody working together like this to solve regional problems and put regional tools in play like that dog, and turning around having that K-9 service available that we wouldn't normally have, or it'd be an extended response time, that collaboration is just huge. So I can't thank you enough for that. And what I'd like to kind of conclude with, and then you're welcome to ask me any questions, I'm currently, as of today, going over our annual crime stats from 2022. It sounds kind of weird. Why am I going over them in the fall, essentially, of 2023? And I think most of you know, I'm sure Captain Warwick briefed you that we had the ransomware attack. But now that I'm getting those reports in, I just want to give you a little picture of what 21 to 22 looked like, and then kind of a 5-year span of what your area specifically has looked like in terms of Part 1 crimes. And that's, you know, your major crimes, anywhere ranging from murder when you're talking about violent crime and ranging through stolen cars when you're talking about property crime. So I'll go through those numbers with you real quick, and then just spend some time if you have any questions for me and kind of, you know, what we think the future looks like and where we're going together as a team. So in terms of the 22 annual crime statistics, if we're looking at murder, comparing 21 over 22, We had no murders in 29 Palms in 22, so you're down 100% basically, because we did have one murder in 2021. In terms of manslaughter, it's zeros across the board, which is a good thing. However, when you come to the category of rape, in 2021, we had 22 rapes, a significantly high number there for the 29 Palms area, but in 2022, it dropped to a total of 9. So when you look at that over a 5-year average, we're actually down 44%. And when you're looking at year over year, meaning 21 to 22, we're actually down 59%. So when we're talking about robberies, the picture there is from 21, we had 7 total, 10 total in 2022 for a 43% increase, but over 5 years, it's actually depicted as a 38% decrease. Have a significant rise in aggravated assaults, 101 in 2021, and in 2022, 131. So if you look for a 5-year period, it looks like 173% increase, or year over year, you're talking a 30% increase. And there may be a number of reasons for that. I know Captain Warwick has talked to you, just like I've talked to you in the past, about a number of legislative changes in California where a number of these bad actors just aren't held in custody as long as they were, or getting them back into custody has become difficult based on some of these legislative changes. And then kind of rounding out the violent crime piece is simple assaults. So in 2021, we had 115. In 2022, we had 126. So a year over year, a 10% increase, but over 5 years, going back to 2018, a 29% decrease. So what do we look like in terms of the overall violent crime statistics? It looks like from a 5-year perspective, a 7% increase over the 5 years, but year over year, a 12% increase. Now I'm going to shift gears for you, and we're going to talk a little bit about property crime. We'll start off with burglary. In 2021, recorded 68 of those. In 2022, had 77, so a year over year, a 13% increase. Larceny, 103 in 2021, a decrease in 2022 to 88, so you're seeing a 15% decrease in that arena. But if you look at that picture over 5 years, you have an overall 35% decrease. So we're looking good in terms of basic larcenies and those types of crimes. And where we see a significant increase in 29 Palms, I want you to know that as a picture looking at other cities across the county, there are average in the uptick of violent crime. But when we're talking about property crime, specifically in the area of grand theft auto, we see this across the board that there's a significant increase. And I think some of the same legislative factors play into this. But in 2021, we had 19 GTAs reported, and in 2022, 36 total. So over a 5-year period of time, it's a 16% increase, but obviously from year to year, significant to 89%. And then when you look at things holistically, in property crime, year to year, you're seeing a 6% increase, but overall 5 years, you're actually seeing a decrease of about 28%. So I know that's a lot of numbers and things to throw at you, but 29, I want you to know that 29 Palms, in terms of violent crime, is actually lower than some of the other cities surrounding you. And I'm not talking nearby, I'm talking about other ones further away. But we are seeing this average uptick in violent crime really across the board and across the state. So I don't know if anybody has any specific questions, and I know I've thrown a lot of things at you, but please know that obviously I'm a Wildcat. Your community is near and dear to me, as is the entire county, but I always pay special attention to where I came from. And I'm open to any questions that you may have that I can answer, or certainly Captain Warwick can answer for you. And I just appreciate spending some time with you this evening.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you spending the time with us and giving us that update. Any council members have any questions? Okay, open up to the public. Anybody have any questions for Sheriff? All right. You're good, sir.
All right, Mayor, thank you very much. It was good being with all of you. And as always, I know Captain Warwick will take very good care of you. I couldn't be more proud with his collaboration. And I see that directly when I'm out there visiting. So thank you for your support. And if I can be of assistance, please don't ever be afraid to call on the captain or me, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Have a great evening.
You
Thanks,
too.
Sheriff.
All right. So it's trying to promote the captain. Okay, presentation to Twentynine Palms High School volleyball team for their participation in the Cash for Trash and Recycling program. Come on up, don't be shy.
Right here, cool. Yeah. First thing I'm gonna ask you is, you ready to know the answers, huh? Hey, can you please tell us where you did your service at?
Where was that at? Split Rock and Desert Queen.
About how many bags did you guys pick up?
28.
28 bags.
Yes.
Did everyone helped here, or all the adults and parents helped?
It was half.
Half?
Half.
Okay, so we want to thank, the city wants to thank you for keeping the city clean and doing community service and being leaders of the community at a young age. So on behalf of the city, here's some money for your program.
Thank you.
And on behalf of Birdtech, here's also some money for your program.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and we gotta take a picture to make it Facebook official.
Okay.
Over
Over here? Oh,
Yes, go that way.
this way? This way? This
So you guys good?
way?
No, you, that's our money. Big smiles. Good? Thank you, coaches.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have a presentation by PAAC.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and council members, for letting us do this short presentation about Workshop 29. My name's Anna Stump. I'm the chair of the PAAC, and this is Kate Short, and she is our vice chair, and she's doing an amazing job. She's going to do the bulk of the presentation, but I'm going to just do a little introduction before. First, the PAAC would like to very sincerely thank outgoing city manager Frank Luckino for all his help, responsiveness, teaching us, because we were all new, and we really appreciate your guidance, and we'll miss you a lot. Deeply. Yes. We're also excited to let you know we had a vacancy, and we have an applicant who's really exciting, and he will be introduced to you in the next meeting. Hopefully you will approve him to join us on the PAAC. And before I turn it over to to Kate, I'd just like to remind you of the other things that the PAAC has been doing, we continue to do besides Workshop 29. We have a new show opened at the Twentynine Palms Visitor Center. It is Taste of the Weed Show. It is a beautiful gem of a show. Larry Bowden and Dana Bowden helped, basically, they curated it, and it's to allow tourists and people who might not be in town that one weekend of the weed show to be able to see it, and it's been very successful so far, so I hope that you'll get a chance to go over and see that show. And it'll be up until through the holidays. We also continue to advocate for the existing public art in Twentynine Palms. Specifically, we're working on the 29 exclamation point sculpture by Chuck Kaplinger, and we're going to be coming forward with some ideas on that, hopefully soon. And then our granting program in the springtime is revving up, and we're starting to talk more to people, both organizations and individuals in Twentynine Palms who advocate and offer arts low cost or free to both children and adults in Twentynine Palms. So that's where some of the money that the PAAC money, your money, our money goes. And now the big money, $100,000. Take it away, Kate.
So again, I want to just reiterate, first of all, thank all of you for helping support the PAAC in this past year as we've been transitioning. I know that it's been a bumpy road, and we're finding our way. And we really appreciate your patience and your kindness and your support in helping all of this happen, including helping get this grant happening for us here in 29. And again, Frank, we thank you so much for all your support. He's really been an incredible backbone to what we've been doing and responds all the time to all of our tiny needs. So thank you, and we will miss you, and we're excited to work with you, Larry. So I wanted to kind of go into how we've come about with Workshop 29. So when we were writing this grant, we were looking at how can we meet the needs of the grant and also meet the needs of our city. So mainly we were thinking about how can we activate our community, how can we activate what was called Project Phoenix, but now Freedom Plaza and that whole, and our community center, and bring people in and create a space there that really feels like a home to our community members, a place where they can come and be and feel like it's the center of their community. So we looked at that, and we're looking at what we can do in 29 Palms to help our community. And it ended up rolling into this workshop series, which hits on a lot of different areas in our community. So, you know, there's ecology, there's storytelling for the LGBTQIA and Black, Indigenous, people of color. And the other workshop we're doing hits on voter registration and activating people to actually come out and be part of our civic engagement in this community. And then our final workshop is dealing with processing of emotions and trauma through art. So when we look at these workshops, we're looking at them as a way of engaging our community and trying to meet the needs of our community, but also kind of behind the scenes, what this program is doing is reaching out to the many aspects of our community, the many groups within our community, and saying how, as PAAC members, as this committee for the city, can we service our community? And so it's a learning and growing process. It's something that we're doing every single day, trying to figure out step by step as we roll out this program, how can we do this better? How can we take these programs and move them forward after this $100,000 grant goes away? And so it's been very interesting. Some of you have had me reach out to you. I've talking with different groups, and our first workshop that we had was 2 weeks ago now, a week and a half ago, and it was attended by 50 people. So it was incredibly exciting to get that many people out, and families, and diverse backgrounds, and so that was very, very exciting. So one of the really, really big things that we're doing with this program that's very exciting is not just creating these workshops so we can get into our community and support the community, but for longevity, what we're trying to do is activate individuals in our community that want to be leaders in the arts. And so our mentorship program is the kind of the cornerstone of this whole program. We worked very hard and went into all aspects of our community and pulled out people who we thought might be interested in moving forward and being active in our community. And that's creating programming. Some of our mentees are excited to, in the future, possibly create community centers or after-school programs for kids. And so this program is basically, through these workshops, we're teaching them how to hands-on do programming. But on the back end, we have a mentorship program that will be teaching them step by step how to actually organize, how to work with all of you, how to work within the city, how to work with different organizations in the city. So we'll be having meetings with them. We have 2 professional development meetings, and we have writing workshops for them to learn how to write better, because that's very important. And basically we'll be introducing them to this whole process. And so in the end, our hope is that we're springboarding these individuals into the system within our city to be active in creating programming. And the importance of that programming is it's hitting lots of different areas. We want to hit all sorts of different programs within our city. It may not seem that the arts fit into, say, working with the homeless or addiction or what have you, but these are the arts are like the seed of empowerment. They're one of the seeds that can be given in a process of people going through life. And I have heard time and time again that without the arts, somebody would not have done this or that in their life. And so the arts are something that create a sense of self and strength to move into other parts of their lives. And so we're trying to give that to our community and hoping that these individuals will go out and grow more of that within our community. So that's our mentorship program. And I can show you our next slide is, these are our first 2 workshops. So our first one was dance and ecology, and we have a little video that I'll play right after. And our next one coming up is the Tell Your Story. And so that one is a 2-part series, and it will actually end in we'll have a chapbook, which for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically like a little book of stories that will tell the stories of those in our community that often don't have a voice. And so we're excited to have that, and the PAAC is also going to help a little bit to fund making sure that we have copies of that to give out and to also disseminate amongst many people in our community. So we're very, very excited about that upcoming workshop. And so you will be seeing more of these coming up. This is our sort of aesthetic. We have 2 more workshops after. And then our final event is going to be at Freedom Plaza on the stage, and it is a celebration of all of the workshops that we've had. And so there'll be poetry and music and dance and all sorts of things going on. So I'm going to play the video now and just give you a little taste of our first workshop.
So this workshop is dance and ecology, and through dance we'll be learning about the local ecology.
I've seen a rosy boa before. Slither, then they pulse, pulse, pulse. Hit it, DJ. Slither, slither, slither. Now pulse, pulse, pulse. Rosy goes to this. Go. Ah, ah, ah.
This
Now
is
pulse.
and another one of our mentees.
Pulse. Like
Brandy.
a rosy boa. And keep going. 1, 2, 3. Pulse, pulse.
Follow the link below to get more information.
Go. 1, 2, 3.
So that's a little bit of a taste from our first workshop, and so we'll have more out there. Follow us on social media. You'll see more clips of the workshops and stuff. We're going to have a little bit longer of a story that came out of this because it was a whole trajectory. They had little plays and stuff. It was a lot of fun. So we just wanted to give you a little taste. But follow our social media, and we'll be adding more up there, and you can watch what we're doing. So thank you guys very much.
Do you have any questions?
Anybody any questions?
I just want to say thank you because I noticed that there was a lot of young people there, and that's who we have to get involved in
Yeah.
this community. So
Absolutely.
keep up the good work, and it's good to see all the families getting together
Yeah,
and
we're
doing all that.
focusing, we're trying to get into the high school and get into the youth organizations and, and the college. We're working with those groups. But, we also want to work with the senior center and, support everybody. So we're working on doing that. So.
I noticed there was a lot of people there. Did you guys actually have a count?
About 50?
Thank you.
Yeah, we had 50 some signed up, and then about of the portion that came, most of them weren't actually signed up, but came on the day. So it's a mix, but it was an incredible group of people. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I also want to say thank you and a job well done on receiving that grant. It's really important for the community.
Thank you.
All right. So next we have a proclamation recognizing October 2023 as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. City of 29 Palms proclamation recognizing National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas October 2023 is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and whereas National Breast Cancer Awareness Month is dedicated to increasing public knowledge about the importance of early detection of breast cancer with national public service organizations, professional associations, and government agencies who work together to ensure that the National Breast Cancer Awareness Month message is heard by thousands of women, men, and their families. And whereas mammograms are the best method to detect breast cancer early when it's easier to treat, and whereas there are over 3.8 million breast cancer survivors in the United States, and whereas the statistics are staggering, yet we are encouraged to know that survival rates have drastically improved in recent years due to increased awareness and innovative advancements in early detection and treatment. And whereas physicians, researchers, public health professionals, and advocates have made tremendous progress in the fight against breast cancer, which is evident by the decline in mortality rates from this disease nationwide. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of 29 Palms does hereby proclaim October 2023 as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the City of 29 Palms, and ask all employees and citizens to join in this worthwhile cause to celebrate the successes and memorialize lost battles. Dated this 24th day of October 2023, and is signed by me, Mayor. And I'm going to present this to Ms. Alice Lawson. You want to take a picture? Oh, okay. 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 Miss Alice is a breast cancer survivor. Okay, next we got a presentation to Outgoing City Manager Frank Luckino. Presented to Frank J. Luckino, City Manager, in recognition of your 8.5 years of hard work, public service, and the many commendable contributions to the City of 29 Palms. Your leadership, dedication, and commitment have left a positive, permanent mark on the community. March 2015 to October 2023. And I got to tell the public, I almost went to the Desert Hot Springs meeting when they was picking him, you know, giving them a piece of my mind, but I didn't go. So we're going to take a picture, but I want the entire council to take the picture with Frank. You know, I thought about writing things down, but you know, sometimes it's just kind of better just to just kind of talk from the heart and just let it kind of flow out. Yeah, it's truly been an honor and a privilege. It really has. I can remember the day actually with my family here when you guys, the council, appointed me as city manager, and it's been truly, it's been an unbelievable experience. It really has. I mean, this is home. I mean, you know, mostly, all of you know that I live in Yucca Valley, but this truly was home. You know, I know, Kate, and thank you, you know, for saying those words. But you know, the city manager, you know, always gets the good and the bad, right? Blame for the bad, and you know, praise for the good. But truly, it's a team. You know, it's those. You know, Kate, just by her response, it was. You know, Christina Benton kind of pushing those, but you know, I got the accolades, thank you. But it is that team that we have that has pushed things forward through the time frame. It's your leadership that gave me, and it was the staff that kind of carried out those things over the last 8.5 years. And you know, I couldn't have done it without them. And you know, you have a great staff, and just want to echo that. You know, Larry. You're in great hands with Larry over the next you know, few months or so, and I know you'll find a city manager that loves the community as much as I do and will. And I'm not going anywhere. I know I'm going to be golfing in the golf tournament December 2nd, and
beating at the Ground Squirrel and other places. So you'll see me around. And I'm glad my family was here too, because those things that you ask me to do, it's obviously, and they're the other team, right? There's the staff team, then there's the family team, and they, always support me as well. So anyway, it's bittersweet. I'm excited about my new opportunity, but I'm sad. I'm sad to leave, this community and leave all of you. So again, thank you for allowing me to be your city manager over the last 8.5 years. So.
You used up all your city manager
Yeah.
time.
No updates. No updates.
Should be no.
All right. Council comments and reports of meetings attended. Councilman Scott.
I had the honor of participating in this year's 87th anniversary for the Pioneer Parade. I had a really good time. It was great to see the community out there, and can't wait to the next one.
Mr. Mintz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also rode in the parade. I took my razor out there, and my wife was glad that she went with me. And there was a lot of people on the parade grounds. There was. I felt there was more than the last few years. So our staff did a great job, Scott, and all the people at the folks at the Park and Rec, and all the staff here just did a great job putting this thing on. It's and then I went to the pet parade also. And when I talked to Rick, he said that's the biggest one they've had. And there was a lot of people there. There was a lot. And there was a lot of animals. Some did the walk, some didn't. They just brought the animals out and I saw some unusual dogs out there. And of course there was a pig. The pig was there, the famous pig. It's too big to carry around now. So also went to the MD air meeting. I took my 4-hour trip. It takes me 3 hours to get there, an hour meeting, so it's about a 4-hour event for that. That we really didn't do much in this meeting except do some more cleanup, and it's funny when we have to do some of the things we do for the EPA, the federal government, when they'll tell you one thing on Monday and by Friday they've changed 2 words. And the way they describe it, those 2 words sometimes could take a week for 2 staff members just to fix something, and it's really incredible. Just I don't know, being a small business guy from a small town, it just seems like a lot of wasted money on things that they got other better things to do. I also went to the ribbon cutting at the Wildcat Stadium. It was interesting because I actually played football at the one on that field in '72 and '73. Yes, I'm old, and I've been calling the games for that, volunteering to call those games for 23 years now, and they helped cut the ribbon on that thing on the brand new field, and the kids are all excited about there. The soccer, they get to have a new stadium. The stands are great, and the lights, when they score, the lights can go on and off. And if anybody remembers the old lights, the old sodium bulbs, if they went out, it took you 20 minutes to get them back on, so you couldn't shut the lights off. You prayed that we didn't have an electrical shortage, or outage. So that was exciting to be part of that. So after all these years, and I had a couple meetings here at City Hall with some folks, and again, I have some more this week. So, but other than that, Mr. Mayor, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Klink.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I'd like to express my gratitude to City Manager Frank Luckino. I've known him for over the 8.5 years. He was on the Yucca Valley Council when I started with the city here, so now we're telling our age. Yeah. But I want to thank you for everything that you have done for this city. So much growth. You did a lot with the Project Phoenix and the swimming pool, and did a great job, and I want to just personally thank you. I was in the parade. We were stuck behind this guy. And someone got a call and was told you needed to tell Steve Beldering that he needs to speed it up. He's supposed to be only 1 car length behind the one in front of him. Well, he was about 15 at one time, I think. So we just went by him finally. We said, the heck with you now. We're going to go. anyways, thanks for giving out the candy and all that, whatever you gave out. I also went to the pet parade. That was awesome. A lot of pets out there. I was asked to be a judge. Believe it or not, that is a hard thing to do, especially when there's the ugliest, the cutest, the tallest, the one that howls at the sirens, and all that stuff. So it was a lot of fun. I'd like to thank Rick and Matt that put that on, and the animal shelter people that work there. I too went to the Wildcat Stadium ribbon cutting. Believe it or not, Danny, when we were in high school, they were talking about that stadium being built. And now look how long it took them to finally get that done. I graduated in '76 and it was not built. He graduated in '75, so now here we are in 2023 and it's finally come to fruition. So I wanted to thank whoever was in charge of getting that all taken care of. Thank you, it's awesome. I like the lights, the way they flicker off and on. Green, yes. And then good news, I went to the Mountain Desert Measure I meeting last Friday, and the committee, with a unanimous yes, are giving us a total of $5.37 million for curb gutter and widening of 29 Palms Highway on the north side east from Encilia to Larea. And also the widening of that bridge so that it'll be enough to where you can actually walk on it without being really cramped in there to get hit by cars. And it's going to be a lot safer. And they also added an additional $26,998 for a total of $312,558 for the Split Rock Avenue Bridge on the north side of 29 Palms Highway, a main thoroughfare over to Oasis Elementary School in that big area of density up there that now will be able to travel right into town if there's a flood, because they don't have to worry about going into that flood control channel and being whisked off, which happened before. So that was great to see. And with that, I am going to pass it on.
All right, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I partaked in all the Pioneer Days festivities that I could get to. I got to the football game at halftime, so I didn't get the ribbon cutting, but I was at the concert. I hope we get to see more touchdown lights than we have been seeing. So hoping next season we see more lights flashing. Congratulations, awesome job to Scott and the staff, all the staff, PW, Public Works, and Park and Rec, and I know city staff had a lot to do with Pioneer Days. Successful. Yes, I was lagging behind on the parade because there was a lot more kids than usual, and I was handing out candy, and you had one kid a bag of candy, and another 10 are looking at you. I'm like, oh no. And then it just got slower, and then they started calling their friends, and everyone started showing up, so I think that's what's going on. But
Did you run out?
no, I did not. I had to come back, circle around. Yeah, so. But it was a great day, awesome day for 29 Palms. I saw the smiles. I see the community feeling all the love. It was back to it used to be, so that was a good thing. Frank, thanks for everything. I mean, I got here, so brand new councilman. Now I'm old and gray. I'm not as old as the 73. These guys are playing. Yeah, they're playing football, and I wasn't even born yet, so that's pretty cool. But, yeah, but thank you for everything. Thank you for everything. And Larry, I know we'll be fine, and Cindy and all the rest of the staff. We'll be fine, so until we find the replacement. But thank you. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't realize y'all was that much older, but I was still trying to figure out middle school and stuff like that. So I did also attend the parade. I was in the parade, and I also attended the sunrise service that I wish got more advertisement, because we did do a sunrise service Sunday for Pioneers Day, and it was fantastic. But like always, I want more people to show up. So, and then I also went to the ribbon cutting at the football field, and I do think it's neat, that when the lights are on and you look at the pole that it's on, it's green. And, amazingly, I can see that color, and I was like, that's pretty neat. So I just thought it was fantastic. And the event was great. The kids seemed really excited, so that was good. I also got a chance to meet with a council member from Finland today, and that was a pretty interesting conversation. So we're doing great compared to the situations they're in. So we're doing pretty good. Same thing, Frank, thank you for the time that you gave us. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed working with you. You will be missed, but we're going to be all right, so. Larry, welcome back.
Back.
So we're gonna hold it down. We're gonna be all right. So, and that's all I have. All right. Consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately by the city council. The public will be given an opportunity to comment on consent calendar items prior to the city council action. Anybody want to remove one?
Mr. Mayor, staff would be requesting to remove item number 14, the animal shelter design contract, for discussion, please.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other ones? Okay, the public want to comment on any consent calendar items? Bring it back.
I'll move the consent calendar, and I'll abstain from item number 7, Project Phoenix warrant register, possible conflict of interest. My wife rents a spot in the Phoenix area, so I have to abstain.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Klink,
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
All right. So item removed was number 14, animal shelter design contract.
Let me bring up that present. Well, good evening. It's great to be here again with all of you tonight. So I'd like to give a brief background on this item just for those who were not at the strategic planning sessions. This was a council strategic need, the top 10 from the strategic planning in January. During the discussion about potentially remodeling the existing shelter, it came up that the best path forward was to investigate designing and constructing a new shelter facility. With that direction, staff then went out and created an RFQ, request for qualifications, for design firms, published that RFQ. We were fortunate, we received 8 very qualified firms responded to our RFQ. Mr. Gardner, Mr. Stacy, ACO Boyd, and myself all reviewed independently of each other and came up with our own top 3 to kind of shortlist. And then we interviewed those 3, and through that process, we came up with what we feel is the best firm to do this project with us. And it's actually a joint venture between Miller Architecture out of Redlands and Shelter Planners of America. They're out of Texas, but so Miller has done about 50 shelters in the last 40 years. Shelter Planners of America is the largest by a magnitude that is outstanding. They've done over 750 shelters. They're the only design firm that actually ran shelters before they became a design firm. They actually ran Humane Society shelters. So if you could go to the slide 1, Frank. You're way in the show there, way back to the beginning.
Oops.
So I just want to show some of their, even further back. I should say work samples, and then from there we'll go through further, a little bit more, a little bit more.
Well,
There
let me
you
do
go.
this.
There you go.
There, oh, was that, okay. There, okay.
So again, during the interviews, it became really apparent that it was this team and then everybody else. And it was just the level of comfort when we presented questions to this firm. They, in essence, before we could finish the question, already knew the direction we should be headed in, what the best guidance would be, and have this process refined because they've done so many of them. This firm is currently doing the new San Bernardino County Care Facility in Bloomington, California, that $40 million facility the county's doing. Now you can see that on your screen now. If you go to the next slide, please, Frank. They're adding animal clinic, and then the next slide. One of the things I wanted to point out on this slide, this is one of 6 buildings that is their kennel facility at that new shelter. As you can see those, it looks like windows along the side of that. What that actually is roll-up garage doors that allow the exterior, the indoor-outdoor kennels when the dogs are moved outside. If there's a high windstorm, if it's extreme heat, if there's a monsoon, they can be sheltered and protected while they're still in those outdoor kennels with good natural airflow and then brought back in. So they kind of have innovative designs that, you know, we hadn't even thought through in this process. So if you go to the next slide, Frank. This is just another example. And I just want to point out, I know a lot of these look really big, really flashy, and I'm sure really expensive. They do projects from $180,000 up to $50 million and everything in between. And we'll talk more about their process going forward. But next slide, please, Frank. This is one of the smaller shelters they did for the city of Norco. And as you can see, it's a small, not expensive, not really flashy shelter. Next slide, please. This is one of the larger shelters again. And next slide. And one of the key things that came out of all of this that none of us were really aware, but we kind of knew, there's a transition has occurred in sheltering operations, and it's no longer the dog pound. It's now a kind of retail adoption facility, and that's the goal of everyone, right? Through their proprietary data and their methods, their assessments they do, as you can see here at this shelter in Harris County, they increase what they call live release, so adoptions, from 50% to 90% just through their design methodology and their practices. And some of those things are shown in these images, like the grooming facility, the cats in an area where they're behind glass so people don't mess with them. The cat, they don't get sick. There's not a spread of disease, kind of containment of that. So next slide, please, Frank. Another example of a different kind of composition, more grass area. Go ahead, next slide. This is another completely different, depending on the budget. They built this in a phased approach. This is something that, you know, we may end up having to look at, where we develop phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Next slide. Another shelter. The interior, you notice the bark walls. That's a common theme now with the planters in between so the animals can't see each other. It lowers the ambient noise in the room, keeps the anxiety of the animals down. They're not staring across at each other. It's one of the key things they've invented. Next slide, please. The clinic spaces, the meet and greet rooms. This is kind of make it a more comfortable setting so the public wants to come there and visit with the animals. Next slide, please. This is a facility they did. It's much larger than we would need. Came in on time, under budget. Next slide. So one of the most important things that we were looking for here is we're obviously not, with the exception of ACO Boyd, we're not shelter designers. We don't know the latest and greatest in shelter techniques and all of that. And so we needed to find experts to guide us through that. And we were fortunate enough to be able to, because the county has this process already ongoing with them, this partnership was already established close to home that we could kind of piggyback off of and use their experience, specifically Shelter Planners of America's experience. And they take an approach, they use a proprietary software that they've developed called BARCS, and that approach looks at the shelter, but it also looks at all of us. It looks at our community for the last 30 years and the next 30 years. And it works on not just changing how the animals are kept at the shelter, but how we interact with those animals, what the public thinks of shelter animals, and in essence changes that. Wants the environment to become more of a pet store, and they call it a holistic approach. And that approach, you know, they have this study now. They have this big body of work where they've analyzed all these things they've done. And if you could go to the next slide, Frank, I'll kind of show that. These are the things that they've invented. These are some of the things that they've invented. This is their founder with his dogs. He ran shelters before he became a designer. If you go to the next slide, please. This is their needs assessment. This will be step 1 if we choose this firm. This will be what we'll do, and it doesn't just review our existing programs, our existing intakes, all of that, but growth patterns, things that we may see in the future. Next slide. This is kind of a sample of what that program looks like and the level of detail in the data. They use this not only to determine volume, but square footage for each aspect of the shelter, for administrative, for the staff, rest areas, things like that. Next slide, please. And then we get this data. And at the end of this process, this is our data. We own it. It'll be ours. They'll share it with us, this report. So if you go to the next. A big part of this, a huge aspect of all of this will be getting the community involved. And the way we're planning to do that, and this is their plan as well, is town hall meetings, where the community will have input into every aspect of this. No matter how we choose to fund it, they will, be on board with us. We need the community to buy in. And go to the next slide, please. So these are some of the highlight points just to show they use every different composition. Next slide, please. The HVAC, so this will give us that quarantine, that proper air handling, negative pressure. They do 100% natural airflow, another thing that we were not aware of until we went through this, and they explained why this happens and how it happens, and how they use negative pressure in quarantine, so it's the same system, but keeps the air separate. Next slide, please. And this just to make it welcoming. That's the point. Like right now, let's be honest, we have a rectangular metal box that's dark and depressing, and we need to change that, right? And we have about a 40 to 45% adoption rate right now, and that needs to be improved. Next slide, please. This is kind of the same. Go to the next slide, please. This is kind of an important one. To create a pleasant and effective workspace for our staff, right? Give our staff the space to decompress. Large part of their job is dealing with animals dying. So we need to give them the tools they need to deal with that every day. And give them the proper cleaning facilities, proper sanitation facilities, so they're not having to try to jumble around with hoses and make this work, washing cages while dogs are inside of them, all of those things that have been going on for years, which, they're doing the best they can, but we need to change that. Next slide, please. So finally, comes down to this, and so I'm gonna read this because I really put a lot of time into it. I wanna make sure I get this right. So in the spirit of transparency, we do have to discuss the cost. So the part we're asking for today, and what we're asking here specifically today, is for the council to take $500,000 of the money that was allocated for the remodel of the existing shelter, which, as you know, we ran into huge engineering issues there that were just really expensive to overcome. Take that $500,000 and enter into a contract not to exceed, not a specific set amount, but not to exceed $500,000 with Miller Architecture and Shelter Planners of America to study the proposed new site, soils analysis, surveying, site mapping design, concepts, conduct town hall meetings with us in person, get community input, take that back, refine the designs, and bring forward a package to the council, to the community, that hopefully the community can get behind whatever funding sources they look at, I will be looking at, to try to fund this project. But we are talking about a construction cost of around $10 million. They're talking about $8 million just for the actual facility. The site that we've chosen, obviously we need to keep the existing site ongoing. It's on a pretty intense slope. Demolition would impact operations dramatically. So the city, and what we're recommending there is the city had acquired 17 acres for Pioneer Park. We're recommending to bring the shelter from up deep in the cave out into the main road, into the public eye, on Adobe and Foothill on that 3-acre lot the city owns there, and develop that property. And potentially, if we can bring that into play, add a secondary dog park and add dog walking paths around that site that was supposed to be Pioneer Park. Obviously, that would be phasal, and we'd have to come up with more money. But today, we're asking for the $500,000 to engage in this and start this process, which will be the first step along many in this journey, I'm sure. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
When you say this, the folks out of Texas, is there grant monies that's available for these kind of things if it's for a high adoption rate?
They were the one firm who did address that and said that they have experience in a lot of their projects seeking grants, capital funding. One of the big things we've had over the years is I've applied for, I couldn't even tell you how many grants I've applied for on behalf of the animal shelter. As a municipal shelter, we often don't score as high because they look at us as having a funding stream. versus a nonprofit shelter. Nonprofit shelters usually get scored higher in the process, like with PetSmart's charities, with Petco Foundation, ASPCA especially. ASPCA also doesn't typically give us money because we are not a no-kill shelter. Obviously, because of the constraints of being a municipal shelter, we cannot be a no-kill shelter. You know, we can't discriminate on intake, right? So there's some challenges there. There are part of this whole process that they've committed to. If you go down the next slide, Frank, you can kind of see. This was their slide. This was they're willing to work through. They've done bond initiatives. They've done private capital campaigns. They've done capital improvement. They've done all of this. And that is something we will be looking at. I've already spent months researching potential grants. I've identified a few that I think we could do. On a side note, I have talked to Frank in the past and Patrick about 501c3 for the shelter. And I think, I mean, I don't know if it's okay if I say here, but my wife and I are going to plan to get this started on our own with participation of other people in the community who are interested in this, to form a 501c3, the Friends of Palm and Paws, and then every donation that goes to that will then be handed off to the shelter. And, you know, but again, there's going to be a lot of grant writing, there's going to be a lot of process to get that done, to get that set up. But hopefully, if nothing else, if we can proceed with this, if we can come up to a resolution, if the community can buy in, and we can potentially look at, you know, alternative sources such as a sales tax or, you know, a millage specific to this project, then that money would help with the increased operation costs. One of the things that also should be talked about here is the whole facility will become air conditioned. It will not be swamp coolers and fresh air by rolling open the door. There's going to be an increased electrical cost with that. The facility is going to be larger. It's going to have more equipment to maintain, specific quarantine equipment to maintain. So there will be ongoing operation costs that will increase with this as well. I couldn't speak directly to those numbers, but I just know for a fact there will be.
Any more
Thank you.
questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm in full support of this. I think it's really, really important for our community. We're a community that cares about our pets, and we do have a high kill rate, and sometimes that's because of the health of the pets. And when you have an environment where conditions aren't ideal, you do get animals that become more sick. And so I think it's important that the facility is air conditioned, and that they're able to clean these kennels appropriately while they're not animals being in there. And so thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation.
Also, since there's going to be an increase, are we going to look at solar and all that?
Yeah, that's all part of the obviously in California, those requirements exist now for any project that's started in 2023. But yeah, we will look at all alternative means. They do employ a lot of natural light, a lot of natural airflow using fans. So in the fall season and the spring season, that natural airflow can occur without having to use those units. Obviously, you still have quarantine, so there will be those quarantine units. One of the big things that also they looked at as alternatives that may come back to you is keeping people away from the animals in the kennels. So glass windows that people can walk along, but instead of getting the animals stirred up, they can see and say, hey, I'd really like to see the dog in kennel 12. Bring that animal out. So that's one of the things that potentially could be coming back to you. But any design, every step will be to town hall, back to the council for input, back to the town hall after revisions are made, and that whole process will be transparent throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else?
I just want to thank you also,
Sorry.
Thank you also for doing all this. I just took another tour of the animal shelter on Saturday, or the last Saturday, the Saturday before, and there's more cages back there that are broken. And it's no wonder that we have to put these animals down, because we don't have places to put them. If we had the cages, that wouldn't happen. So I think this is great to have all brand new stuff, and just hopefully the city and our citizens will get behind it and help us out in that matter to take care of our fur.
It's going to take a lot
animals.
more than just a shelter. We need to also change how we deal with it. We have higher volume than Palm Springs, than Cathedral City, than Yucca Valley.
Mhm.
That needs to be changed just in people's mentality of their pets and their animals.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, open up to the public. Got any green slips? Bring it back.
I like to move the number 14 item.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Mintz,
Aye.
Councilmember Klink,
Aye.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Bildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
Thank you. Public hearing, GPA equity and social justice element.
All right, so this is a general plan amendment, which is 23, number 2. This is the adoption of the equity and social justice element to the general plan, which is a new chapter of the new general plan. It is intended to address social and economic inequalities in local jurisdictions and provide additional opportunities for civic participation for disadvantaged communities, as well as to understand, appreciate, and address racism, xenophobia, and other forms of social injustice. We have our consultant here, John Christ, who did all the heavy lifting for doing a lot of the community outreach and running of the element. He is here for additional questions. This is a state mandated chapter of the general plan, and so we are asking that the city council find the general plan amendment exempt from CEQA and adopt the resolution adding the equity and social justice element to the general plan. And John?
Mayor, members of the council, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
John Christ, Terra Nova Planning and Research, 42635 Melanie Place in Palm Desert. I think, I don't even know that I have a heck of a lot more to add to it than what Keith said. We really bent the ear of the Planning Commission when we went through everything. This has turned out to be an eye-opener for me on several levels. The idea of equity and social justice has always been around, but it's become a real social movement over the last 10 years. And with some trepidation, I took on the job to help steer this. And then we luckily got some great help at the city, not only with staff support, but the council appointed a general plan advisory committee that was very helpful in developing the element, and also helping us facilitate several workshops that we held. And some of the council members also attended those, and so I really want to thank everyone who's participated. You know, this really started about 2 years ago with the adoption of your resolution on this matter, and subsequently you decided let's get some additional help to create an element. The state has pretty extensive guidelines about how to address environmental justice, and they also are broad enough to capture all the areas of work that the city does where we might be able to have actually take an active role in promoting equity and social justice in our community. The element's full of all kinds of technical information that's important, so you understand the definitions of disadvantaged communities, the mandated databases we are asked to look at when we're judging the character of the community and its makeup, and the identifying needs of the community. The public participation part of this turned into an appendix, which is Appendix A to the element, and it outlines all the materials that we prepared, the input we got from the community, the priorities that they identified, and the things they really wanted us to focus on in the element. And then the staff report, which you have a copy of, discusses the structure of the element, just like your current general plan, other elements, you have goals, policies, and programs. So we've tried to make it action-oriented. We had input on the draft from GPAC members and incorporated those. And the Planning Commission also identified one little area where we hadn't assigned a responsible agency or responsible party, and we filled that by giving the council the honor to have one more responsible task to do. Finally, under California environmental law, this is a project under CEQA, but it is an administrative or ministerial kind of action, so there are no consequences to or from the environment specifically, except the human environment, which is very important, obviously. So we've drafted an exemption that if you approve tonight, the staff will file and we will have completed our CEQA process on this as well. I'd be glad to answer any questions. I don't know if any of our GPAC members are here, but again, I'd just like to thank them very much and for the public for participating and tell you that I think you have a really wonderful community here, at least in terms of the equity and social justice issues and the strength and coherence of the community. We're very proud to be able to help in this regard.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, open it up to the public and the green slips. Bring it back. Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we find the general plan amendment exempt from CEQA and adopt the resolution number 2326, adding the equity and social justice element to the general plan.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Mintz,
Aye.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Klink,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
Okay. Public utilities, wastewater services.
All right, this is an amendment not to our development code, but to our municipal code. This is change 23.1 pertaining to wastewater services. And again, this is in compliance with state and federal regulations. There's a lot of technical information in this particular amendment. What it boils down to are three main points. And there are other technical points, but these are the main gists of it. One is every development within 200 feet of an existing sewer line must then connect to the line at the applicant's or developer's expense. Expansion of the system may occur, but at the expense of the applicant. And the city can and has established certain fees for plan checking, inspection, connection, and other services necessary for the maintenance of the system. And we are recommending that we find this municipal code amendment exempt from CEQA, and we're introducing the ordinance for adoption within 30 days.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Bring it to the public and the green slips. Bring it back. Looking for a motion.
Well, I'll move that we find this item, municipal code amendment, exempt from CEQA and introduce the ordinance. Is there a number for that?
2327.
2327.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Klink,
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz,
Aye.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
Okay. Discussion potential action items. Wastewater project.
Well, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This item in front of you this evening, obviously a long discussion within the wastewater arena. Just a little brief background for the public. About 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, where we were in 2023. So it was probably in the beginning of 2022. The state of California, through the 2021 Budget Act, allocated $350 million for septic to sewer conversions in disadvantaged communities. The city at that time had a planning grant with the state of California and kind of accelerated that planning grant to meet the very aggressive time frame that the state had with the septic to sewer conversions. So we, in addition to the state grant, we went out and worked with our congressman. Our congressman has given us 2 additional planning grants, one of $667,000, another one of $1.2 million. And we have a third actually right now of $2 million that is, our congressman has approved, both of our senators have approved, and if and when we ever get a federal budget, maybe it gets approved as well. In addition to that, Supervisor Don Rao has given us $1 million from the county resources, and the city has allocated about $500,000 in our general fund resources for the planning. Right now, today, we have about a little over $2 million, almost $2.1 million remaining out of that monies that have been allocated for planning. So we've been working through that process. There's been a lot of conversations, discussions from the wastewater advisory committee of location of the plant. Currently, we have a phased map of the wastewater treatment facility. It's an alphanumeric map. It's phase 1, but it's phase 1A, B, C, D, and I think E. And the reason we did that was to be able to deploy it. The engineers have made it most cost effective from a flow perspective, because you want as little mechanical as possible. You want it just to flow down a hill, if you will. The Water District and their collaboration wanted a facility that was somewhat centrally located, because today our septic tanks replenish our aquifer, and then once we get onto a wastewater treatment facility, those septic tanks won't be replenishing our aquifer. So we needed to have a long-term plan to be able to replenish those 4 aquifers that we currently have. So we've been going through that planning. There's a lot of been a public dialogue of location of the plant. About 2 weeks ago, I think it was, the state finally, and we've been hearing this, where were we at, in October? I think it was in June, it was July, it was August, about they were going to allocate this money to us. Well, finally, 2 weeks ago, the state has allocated $50 million to our project. So now they want to know, now that it's, they waited all their time, now they're like, okay, hurry up and let us know if you're going to go forward with it. They want us to let them know by January, I think it's in the staff report, 15th or what is that date? Or that's the 31st, actually. So the month of January, they want us to let them know of pathway forward. So about a couple weeks ago when I did resign, I did put all of our engineers on hold, not knowing where your policy was, kind of queuing it up for tonight. So as I see it from the manager's perspective, and there's probably other options, but the 2 most obvious, I think, is you give us policy direction to process that $50 million to move towards construction. Option number 2, and again, there could be others outside of that. Option number 2 would be to not move forward with the project, maybe continue with the dollars that we have available for planning to further refine the project. Maybe the USGS study kind of push that forward more. We'd have to change some of the scope of the grants, but that's not a difficult process. And just to continue to refine the project to get it ready for future funding sources. So those are probably the 2 most obvious options in front of you, but there may be other pending your council discussion, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Well, I guess we haven't really nailed down the actual cost of what it's going to cost to actually operate, because we were looking at a $150 million project. Now, if we have a $50 million project, there won't be as many folks using the pipes. So their cost, the individual's cost would go up, correct?
Yeah, so just by way of example, and to explain that whole thing. So Project Phoenix, super small, right? Our plant, Project Phoenix is super small. So there's not enough critical mass to make the price lower. So the city is actually, the general fund is actually subsidizing that, and you really don't want that. We did engage with a rate consultant, Wildan, to look at the entire project. And we use Yucca Valley's cost structure for that, because obviously we don't have staff or anything, utilities. So we use their cost structure as a basis. And then we brought that over to our customer base and the whole $158 million project. The price per EDU in that scenario is about $60 per EDU. So I just want to be very distinct here. So from a capital side, we were going to be able to deploy the project free of charge, if you will. There wouldn't be any capital buy-in charge. But you would still have, as you would have your water bill, electric bill, your gas bill, your utility bill, right? And that was set at $60. Now the question, if it shrinks, is there going to be less critical mass and the price jumps up? That is a potential, yes. One of the things that staff was going to look at, and we talked to the septic pumpers, because you want more revenue to come into the system, is having the septic pumpers dump into the system as opposed to going out to landers. But yeah, we would have to re-engineer all of that to be able to see ultimately where that would fall. Is it more than 60? Is it less than 60? But yeah, that's the background on all that. You're welcome.
It has been a very exciting few months going over this wastewater issue.
It's a crappy discussion, isn't it? Yeah.
Say that again?
It's a crappy discussion.
All right. I just don't think I don't think the funding is adequate. I don't think it's adequate to do it right, and it potentially has the it has the potential to actually do a lot of harm to a lot of working class and low income people. And so I think that we should give that money back to the state, thank them for their charity, and really look at planning this the right way. At one point, the city's going to need a sewer system, and we want to do it the right way. And we want the treatment plant in an area that doesn't impact residential neighborhoods. We want to improve quality of life, not hinder quality of life. So I definitely would be for not taking that money.
Can we use that money, if we do use it, to research a different location?
Yeah, the planning money, yes.
The planning money?
Yeah, you have to change the scope a bit, but that's
So
not-
we could just,
yeah.
the location, move it, do all that process, and then once we figure out that's a good location and everything's on the up and up, then we can go ahead and start the funding.
Yeah, but not with the 50 million. So yeah, that 50 million would probably come and go, but yeah, you could use the planning money to further develop the project.
Okay.
And it could be a different location. It could be, whatever.
But not that 50 million. Not that 50 million.
Not the 50 million. Yeah, the planning dollars.
I am still in favor of going out and looking to see where there would be, if it would be suitable elsewhere in the city. I am not a person that likes to give away free money. They want to give it to us. We want to, if we do it, might be at a smaller scale, but like I said, when I started talking about the sewer plant, and this was back in my early years on the council, we could have done the whole thing, the whole city, like for about this amount of money. And nobody wanted to listen then. Now we're at the point where we got this free money, and now we want to give it back. It just doesn't seem that would be a good idea. So I'm still in favor of us going and looking to see if there's a suitable place elsewhere, and then just let the engineers continue their work and give them to maybe the first part of January to come up with what they feel would be the right thing to do. If we have to put it in where it's at now, then that might have to be what we do. But at least we tried to get it somewhere else that might be suitable for everybody in the city. So I would still vote for continuing to go on with what we have been doing.
I guess, so between now and January 30th, would we have time to get all that done? In other words, I want to know, I would like to have the cost, I want to know what the costs are going to be, period. At a $50 million plant, what is it going to cost our ratepayers? What is it going to cost for us to operate it? What is it, I want to know those costs before I would commit. I don't want to give the $50 million back either, but I also don't want to build something that we end up paying more money out of our pockets that we weren't planning on on a continuous basis. So I guess I would need to know, I want to know all those things before I could vote on us taking the $50 million.
So if I look at the.
But obviously, I wanted, the $2 million we have left for all the rest of the studies, I want us to spend that money, continue with that, because that's grant money we've got, and we don't want to give that back. Because that would still be, they would still be using that money to plan the whole city, right? As far as they're still looking at,
Yeah.
we could study this, so.
Yeah.
I don't want to give the money back either, but I also want to know what is this gonna actually, I want to know hard costs before I would vote on this.
So looking at the calendar, July 31st, your last council meeting in January would be January 23rd. So, again, pending what the council tells me this evening, I could, task the engineers to redo the cost study, that's what I'm hearing you say, on the rate study. It's going to be a shrunken down. Now we know how much it is. So now we got to do a few things, actually. We got to value engineer it, right? And, part of which is moving it. It's going to be, it's a zero-sum game, right? So what the engineers have estimated is and probably the best idea here is, let's see here. Let me pull up the map here. God bless you. There's the city. Okay, so originally, we talked about this location here, right? This one is it's about $500,000 more to move it to here. It's about $2.5 million now, because now we're in the flood channel, right? If you remember. Or not the flood channel, but the flood plain. Where's the flood map here? Flood hazards. Flood hazards. So close that. So when we move it over on the other side of Utah, because of just like your house, right? If you build a house, you got to make it higher. So it's about $2.5 million here to move it further east, and they were looking at the industrial area around about, and they think that's even a light number. It's about $9 million there. So it becomes a zero-sum game, because when you move it, it's going to take away from the zoning map. And just to illustrate that by way of example, let me see, because you got the layer here, right? Yeah, okay. So maybe turn off that flood map because it's a little too busy. Whoops, where's that at? Okay. So these are the color areas. And so this area here would be, that phase 1A. And so the further you move it out, well, actually, let's stop there first. So right now we only got $50 million. So we're going to have to value engineer this to start hacking off streets to get to the $50 million. Right? Because this section here, from an estimate perspective, was about $75 million with the plant. So when we start moving the plant further east, and again, $500,000, $2.5 million, $9 million, whatever the distance we move it from, that's going to further reduce this, if that makes sense. So, yeah, if the direction is, figure out what the, from a rate perspective it is, I think the second part of that would be location as well, because we got to value engineer this to figure out what streets we're going to have to hack off to be able to, fit the numbers that we have available.
Well, we already know we're going to have to hack off half of that.
Probably.
With only $50 million, even if we kept it in the same location.
Yeah.
So we're realistically looking at about 300 homes.
Yeah. Well, in the full entire phasing section here, it was around 3,000. It was because you have Matt, you may have to help me here, but you have 8,000 connections, right? Yeah, 8,200. Yeah, and this was about 30% of it, so around 24. And so this is 1/5 of 24. Again, high level numbers here, around 200, 300. Yeah. So.
200, 300 connections.
600. I'm sorry, 20% of 2,000. Yeah.
So even at 600,
Not a lot.
connections out of 9,000, Matt, you said? 8,200. That just seems like a small portion. I'm just I really worry about the impact of that area. And so I just can't move forward on it. There'll be other opportunities, I feel like.
So if even if we did 600, that's phase one.
Correct.
So then we would be moving to phase two
Correct. As
shortly after, right?
Yeah, yeah, you would, so you would have a couple things, options there. Once you have a plant, the plant then gives you the ability to expand, right? The plant is the biggest deal, right? Because once you have a treatment plant, then you could expand, right? So, a lot of cities and you do a mile a year by way of example, right? It's similar to our road team, they'll do X amount of roads a year. Well, it's the same thing with the sewer project, right? We'll expand so many roads in, next fiscal year and et cetera, et cetera. So.
But that grant money won't be there. The homeowner would have to pay to
Correct.
have it hooked
That's
up.
correct.
But we still, so since the money has shrunk, we still don't even know what the operation cost of a $50 million, or what the plant this size to do. If we're talking about now it's 600 homes, we don't even know what the operating costs, even if we kept it in the same spot, we don't know what the operating costs are, correct?
Correct, yeah. We would have to task the engineers to look at it. But first, we'd have to figure out how shrunken it is.
Because of only the smaller plant. Well, I couldn't in good faith vote on something without knowing what it's going to cost. So if we can get some hard numbers by January and then just tell them then, let them suffer a little bit when we're going to spend that $50 million, because we're going to spend the $2 million anyway on the study. So we're going to have all that in our back pocket no matter what we do. So that's where I'm at. Let's spend, spend the money to find out what it's actually going to cost, the hard cost, because believe me, it's leaving a bad taste in my mouth giving back $50 million. But I got to know what is it going to cost to run, because we already know Project Phoenix, we're already subsidizing that. So, and that would be much more we'd be subsidizing that sewer plant a lot more. So, that's my opinion.
And just to throw another wrinkle to that, so the USGS, so the state has committed, via email verbally for the USGS study. So we've got the commitment from the feds. Feds, we already have a cooperative agreement with them that's inked. Now the feds aren't contributing as much, right? I think it's a $1.1 million project, and I think they're contributing $100,000 of the 1.1. So it leaves $1 million that needs to be funded for the USGS. You could use some of that $2 million, right, for that. But if we start really going fast and furious, we may suck up some of that $2 million. So that's another one of those, offshoots here that you could just, go down that USGS path.
Well, that's really going to tell us what the timeline is, right?
Yeah, not a matter of if, it's only a matter of
Well,
when.
right, but
Yeah.
if they say it's 50 years from
Correct,
now,
right.
then obviously
Yeah,
they may
50
have a whole new
years.
technology. Every home may have its own incinerator. Who knows? By then. So, well, that's where I'm at. If we, I don't want to waste this $2 million by just saying, okay, let's just keep spending it. But if we need to hold back $1 million for the GS study, but I have to know what the hard costs are before I could say for that money.
Yeah,
We've been stringing along. We thought it was going to be $150 million, or maybe like 130. We were downsizing a little bit, but when they said 50, my heart just sunk, because I'm like, how the heck are we going to do this? So that's where I'm at.
I agree. That's one of the reasons why I pushed hard for the amount we asked for in the first place, because just knowing the state. I have a hard time with, giving 50 million back also. But at the same time, I agree with Danny, I need to know costs, because it ain't going to do us no good if people still have to pay an outrageous amount. So, and then I do also want to look at, moving it. We have to look at that, I think. So that's where I'm at too. I think we need to, basically we don't have to give an answer till January. So let's do the study and see what's what.
Yeah. Maybe public comment, then we can come back.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Open up to the public. Getting the green slips?
You know it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Council. It's good to see you guys again. Before I say anything else, Pioneer Days came off great this year. Congratulations to everybody. So I want to make this a little easier for you guys. I understand that it's really difficult to give back $50 million, but what we had was the free money of $150 million, like you were talking about, right? And that was something that would motivate policy. I understand completely that if you had that much money, you'd have to do something about it. And you don't want to give back free money. I completely understand that. But the state of California in 2018 passed a Senate bill, 1215, which provides sewer to septic grants for communities like ours if we have a wastewater water problem. If our water gets fouled, that grant will be there. Not $150 million, but like the $50 million that you're going to have to give back now, that's a doable amount. Like, you're not going to have $150 million available for free in the future, but you don't have that available right now either. That's gone. That $50 million, I completely understand why you feel that I would hate to give that back too, but I think that money will actually be available to us in the future. Not the huge amount, but the amount that you have now, you could worry less about having to give it back because it will come again. As far as moving it, I really appreciate that we're talking about this. Aside from the floodplain, there's an earthquake fault there. I looked at the environmental reports. It's not just the fact that I don't want them in my front yard. There's an earthquake fault there that would cost more. We don't even know if we could build a sewer plant for $50 million at all. A sewer plant might cost $70 million. So I think you're all in the right place right now. I'm agreeing with you basically. I just want you to feel a little bit more confident that if you make this decision to look at moving it, and helping you out this way, that you're not going to lose the $50 million. It's going to be there if we need it. If we do the USGS study and they come back and they say, oh, actually you're in trouble, we'll be able to go to the state and get $50 million to help. And that's all I had to say. I just want to apologize also publicly to Carolee Hargrove, who did a great job chairing the Wastewater Council. Everything about this caused a kerfuffle, and we all learned lessons about how we could be better people, myself included. And I just want to thank you and apologize to you in public for ever having any contention when you were just doing your very best job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, just to add upon that, so from a staff perspective, we felt pretty comfortable when the cap was set. Before the state took away, and I didn't add that to my background, but originally, there was that $350 million, but the state, due to their budget issues this past year, took $150 million away from that, so it went down to $200 million. So the cap prior to that was $75 million. And we felt pretty confident from a staff and consultant perspective that phase 1A, we could do it all. And just by way of example to that, comment earlier, a general plan is about $40 million just in itself. So with $50 million, we were going to even scale the plant down a bit just to make it work, from the dollar amount. So, yeah, that would definitely be a challenge as well.
Well, if you said there was 75 was the cap, but they gave Yucca Valley
Originally,
84.
yeah.
But they gave Yucca 84 on this one, so.
Well, so when I called him on it, Matt, he heard it, I think, at Mojave Water, and I confirmed it with Yucca Valley, and I went to the state, and I was like, what the heck, that's not fair, and, to what Joe was saying earlier, we're in this weird scenario, right? Because when you have bad water quality, you get more money, right? So Yucca Valley is under a prohibition, with a regional board. So they gave them an exemption to exceed the cap because they're on a prohibition. And, you know, we don't have any issues, so we're low priority. And so, you know, but they realize, you know, we're a small disadvantaged community, so they gave us the cap, but they gave Yucca Valley more money. So,
So we still got a public comment. Carly?
All right, I think it's safe to say Joe and I are besties now. One thing for the council is when we started off, we were pretty far over. And we did move it over 2 lots. I don't know if Frank can show you that real quick. I know I'm on a time thing, but I did want to, so you guys at least know we did listen to what the community members were saying when they came, and we did move it. And yes, we knew it was in the flood zone, but you know, we have Nate Mathers, who's on the committee, who's really good at wastewater. Mr. Don Benton, who's really good with the construction. Vino, who understands it. I mean, Gerald, it's a great committee. We actually are a really good committee. So we did take that into consideration. Once I heard it was 50 million, I'll be the first one to tell you that I said, oh, well, it's dead. I mean, that's how I thought. I was like, well, wow, that was a lot of meetings, and I had to rush to my plane to Cuba, but I made it. Yeah, but Joe and I are cool now. But one thing it did do is I think that even though it was intense, that wastewater, it did kind of bring us together. We argued a little bit. I think it's okay. I'm hoping for a smooth transition. Back to wastewater. Joe. All right. What I would suggest is, could we look at some kind of loophole, because there's always a government loophole, right? Always. Of having the plant built for the $50 million, keeping it running and cycled with water. That way we have it. We go in with the base operator or Yucca Valley just as a small salary to keep that thing going. That way it's here. That's my only concern is I don't want us all looking back 15 years and we're like, man, we had the chance and we didn't. So is there some kind of loophole we can look at? Also, if we could prolong the construction part of it. So if you guys did decide to go with the 50 million, we get it. But what we do is we then start, as some of you have mentioned, we need to build, 100 houses or something to be with the new state guidelines. And we say, hey, California, we now have a sewer plant. Can we get some money to easily tie these houses in? Because I do know people who own lots in this phase 1A that the minute this comes in, they're building housing. And not expensive housing, affordable housing. So while I know 50 million is not a lot, maybe if there's some kind of way we get the money, find a way to keep it cycling with water, that way it's there and we have it. If you guys want to move it, fine. Not to Hilltoppers though, that's way too far. But we could move it to a different area. I know the sewer committee would love to still be involved. None of us have wanted to quit, go figure, weird. But yeah, some kind of loophole on how we could do that and use that to increase building low-income homes for citizens. Ah, man. All right. I wasn't even planning on talking. My daughter made me come. All right. Thank you so much.
And just so the council is aware, so yeah, this little purple is where the original location was, and the committee talked about like moving it, again, outside of the flood channel, but just further over here. So I want to say, I know Keith drew the distance here. It was like another 1,000 feet. So I think this was 700-ish. And so this would be another, so it was like 1,800 feet, I think, in total. And just one other comment on it. We asked the state that question, can we just build a plant? No collection system, just a plant. So at least we have the plant. And they can't do a bridge to nowhere, if you will. It just, it's not a complete project from their eyes. It's not going to treat anything because there's not connecting houses. So we did ask him that question. So, good question.
Okay, let me bring it back first. I'm bringing it back to the council. All right, go ahead.
So, just going off of what the public had just said is there are people that are wanting to build affordable housing in the area. I certainly am pro affordable housing. But do we have a cost analysis between like what it would cost to build a house and hook it into a sewer system versus just building a house with a septic? I've heard from a lot of our constituents that their septics work and they're fine with it.
So there's a couple things there, right? Yeah, so from a single family house perspective, no big deal, right? You put a septic tank in, not a big deal, right? So there's state policy, though, that kind of create issues. So if you had, by way of example, a 10-acre lot, right, and you wanted, the zoning allowed you to do 10 1-acre lots, the state won't allow you to do that. The minimum without a sewer system is 2.5 acres. So it limits the amount of density that we can kind of create. The issue really with lack of septic is large density housing. So if you would build an apartment, if you will, complex, if you would build a housing tract, if you will, you just can't do that. The regional board won't let you do that. Anything over 2,500 gallons a day discharge, they won't allow you to do a septic tank. So the larger you get, that's when septic tanks won't work.
Sure. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And then a lot of that area in that 1A, it's going to be a lot more infill. And so those, we're talking about single lots. And, you know, I just think the money's going to be there in the future. What this does is it puts us into, it makes us pressured. We're going to have a short time frame to build something, and we don't even have the land. And so it just doesn't feel right for me. I rather get the money, and I rather do the USGS study, see when we're going to have a problem with our water supply, and just plan this out. It could be 10, 15, 20 years from now, but I think that the long-term planning is the best solution.
Well, hearing that the government's only going to put $100,000 in that, so I would, yes, can we allocate out of that $2 million because it's going to be for a study to use that for the USGS study?
We would have to go back and change the scopes from the grants that we have, but yeah.
But then that'd still give us about $900,000 to still do some more of the studying, or at least get, somebody's got to be able to tell us what it cost, how many people could be, even if we kept it in the same spot, what that $50 million would do.
Well, but so first you got to give recommendation on the location, you know, because that's going to, so when we value engineer it, remember, we're going to have to start shrinking it. So that component of it is going to be important too, is how far it goes. Because again, it's 500,000 to, it's like $2.2 million. Then as far out as like $9 million. So, you know, I would need to know that recommendation first, how far to move it out, so then I could take it away from that purple area even further to figure out how small it is so they could extrapolate what the cost.
Well, wouldn't they be able to just do that, put that in the computer and just give us the cost estimate on all three locations? Because obviously, if we go with the $9 million ones, that just takes up less hookups. But I still want to know what it's actually going to cost to run this thing.
Yeah,
is where I'm more concerned about at the moment.
Yeah, we could task the engineers actually to run those three scenarios. Scenario A, taking 500, moving it to that the closest location, which is $500,000. Value engineering that purple area, seeing how small it would be, then to get the rate costs. Then go to the little further one out, which is $2.5 million. Then shrink that purple down even further to see what the rates would be. Then go as far out as the $9 million one, shrink down that purple to see what that cost could be. So yeah, they could do that three gyration.
But not just the cost of what it's going to cost the homeowner, but what is it going to cost to actually operate the plant?
Yeah.
See, that's where I'm actually more concerned. I think, obviously, but shrinking this, I'm concerned about what it's going to cost, because the more we shrink this, it's more it's going to cost the customer. But it's also, what is it actually going to cost to run that plant? We haven't even had that figure yet. That's when, because we thought we had 100. We thought we were going to get at least 75 million, which could have got us in the ballpark. But
and that's one and the same. So what the, you know, if it's $1 million, I'll make this up, $1 million to run the plant. Basically, you take all those EDUs or houses, divide that up, and that's the cost to operate.
What's 600 into $1 million?
House.
Who's got a calculator? What's 600 homes into $1 million?
Well, so, you know, it's not quite that easy because there's EDUs, right? And so businesses, by way of example, so you're in a downtown, right? So you've got Denny's by way of example.
Yeah, they would pay
You know,
more.
that would probably, there are probably 4 or 5 or 6 EDUs, right? So it's not a complete divisional thing. So we could task him in those 3 elements.
So can we get that done by January and do it for less than $1 million so we can save $1 million of that to go to the USGA study?
Okay, yep.
Well, that's my recommendation, folks.
I like that.
No, I agree. We need to know what the operating cost is. While I want it all the way in the industrial zone, I understand that $8-9 million it's a tough number, and so it's going to be hard to work with, and that just impacts the community as well. I think the last time we talked about this, we gave direction to look at it being at least half a mile to a mile away from housing. And we could probably do that without it having to go all the way out east to the industrial zone.
Yeah, and I stopped them, the engineers, probably like 2-3 weeks ago, not knowing kind of where we were going to go. So I could have them look at something in that, middle point as well. So there'll be four scenarios there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sound good.
I'm still with you, but what about instead of putting residential on there, let's just do the businesses, because we need businesses to come into 29 Palms, and that's they look to see if a city has sewer, so maybe we could just hook them all up.
Yeah, so I know that was asked, by another council member, that same question. So from the engineering perspective of it, one is so we got more houses than businesses. So from a cost perspective, you need residential because you got more houses than businesses. And the other part of it is a system. You got an organic process, right? And the houses have more normal sewage than businesses. And in businesses, when we talk about businesses, we're talking about restaurants, right? A dress shop is just like our house. It's a toilet and a sink, right? But a restaurant, and bars for that matter, that have washing machine, dishwashers and chemicals and stuff like that. And even laundromats, for that matter here. It's you need normal sewage, which is houses, to be mixed with the commercial to have the system run properly. Because this is an organic process, right? I mean, you got, this is a scientific process, right? You got the bugs in the system, you got to keep you guys went to the tour, right? And heard them talking about the bugs, and you got to keep the organisms alive. So that mixture of organisms from residential and commercial is needed.
Okay, so I guess, are we ready for a motion then of some sort?
I think you're spot on. I think you can make a motion.
Are you ready, Mr. Mayor?
Yep. I'm
Well,
ready.
I'll make the motion that we task the staff, because I can't say the city manager at the
Yeah.
moment,
Interim city manager.
interim city manager, to save what is it, 1.1 we'll need out of that?
We need $1 million for the USG.
Okay, so use $1 million of the remaining grant money to go to the USGS study, and use the other $1 million to study what it's going to, if we move the plant, how much it's going to cost, the customers for each hookup and each location. So each location where it's going to be, what it's going to cost, how many hookups we can have, and then how much it's going to cost to run that plant per year. And
And there's 4 scenarios.
there's
Yeah,
4 scenarios, yes.
Okay.
So that's my motion.
I second.
You got all that, Sid? All right. Roll call.
Councilmember Klink,
Aye.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have city manager recruitment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Last item of the evening here. With my departure, the next task outside of appointing the interim city manager, Mr. Bowden, is the recruitment of the permanent city manager. Just kind of thinking, Larry and I were talking today about timing of this, and probably the best case scenario, I think, given the holidays in front of us, probably having a city manager in place by March is probably, I think, realistic. So you have two options in that is to hire a firm. You hire a firm, and it's, there's a couple firms I got bids for, but you're spending $20,000 to $30,000. It will have a bigger reach, right? It'll be a nationwide reach. Or the other option is to do the recruitment internally through our HR department. The reach would be smaller, but nonetheless, I think we could capture probably local, regional applicants as opposed to, state and, countrywide applicants. So those options are both in front of you this evening, and the staff is looking for recommendations so we can move forward with the next steps.
Any questions for staff?
No, I'll save my comments after public.
How many miles would you say is regional for going out?
A lot
100?
Yeah, Coachella Valley, probably.
200?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what a lot of, Larry and I were talking about this today, the source for a lot of people looking for jobs is Western City magazine. So we would post that in there, and, a consultant, what they would do, because we all get them in our boxes every day, so they have a database of all of us. So we'll get an application or a job ad in our box for a city clerk in Sacramento, let's say, or a planning director in wherever, right? And so they know all of us, and so that's what the recruiter will do. They'll send us, they'll paper it all, right? So they'll get to them. The other way to do it is Western City Magazine, and so that's the individuals going there and looking at it. So yeah, we could still get people from far away, if you will. They just have to find us as opposed to us finding them.
Well, I know that,
Oh,
go ahead.
Man, open it up to the public. I have one that I have to read from Susan Peplau. I'll keep my remarks on the hiring of the city manager minimal, given the lengthy agenda this evening. I have been a part of the community for almost 20 years, and I have seen many city managers come and go. Some of them who were not a good fit stayed with us for a year or less, while others, like Mr. Luckino, stayed with us for a long period and contributed to the development of our city. It became more apparent how important it would be to use professional recruitment assistance after reviewing each company's proposal. The scope and value of a skills search agency in locating and vetting potential new city managers is substantial. Given all the responsibilities the city council already has on its plate and the significance of the undertaking, I hope the choice to enlist the help of a recruiting firm to assist us in this process is clear and unanimous. With trust, Susan Peplau. And do I have any more green slips? All right, bring it back. All right.
Okay. Well, I know that the city manager pool will know about this because when they go to these League of Cities, there's a lot of city managers there, and city managers talk. They have their own separate conference, and they also have a separate conference. So all those folks know, and the people in California know. And we went to this process the last time. We had a few folks show up here and said, I'm sorry I'm wasting your time, but I didn't realize where I was. So they came to the desert and they didn't realize this is where they were going to be. Obviously they saw the way our city was laid out, I assume. And anyway, so where I would like, and we used this professional service before, I don't know if it was these particular ones, but my notion is that we go with internal and get the scope out there. And then we find out how many applicants we have. And then if we don't have the right applicants, if we don't get enough, then we can go out. But if we go out first and then we don't like them or they don't like us, and then we go back then we spent $30,000. So my notion is to go internal recruitment first. If we don't like our results, then we can go out. Because if it takes a little extra time, it takes a little extra time. But that's my recommendation.
I absolutely agree with my colleague on that one because, we don't want to get a city manager applicant that doesn't know where they're at. I mean, they could be coming from, New York or Alaska for that matter. But I think if we go internal, we'll be able to look at more regionally. And for me, regionally is, I would say, the Inland Empire, somewhere in San Bernardino or Riverside County, I think was a good look.
So I have two questions, actually. Larry, when we recruited for Frank, we used a firm, correct?
Yes, we did.
And Frank, how did that firm reach out to you?
Well, I was a little different, right? Because I wanted to be here, so I was watching. I think I texted Joel actually that night. So I knew about it before. The recruiter never got a hold of me.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a different. That was just different.
So to my point about the League of Cities, when we were at the conference, we knew Frank was the city manager of Blythe, and Joel and I actually were talking to him, not knowing, and then all of a sudden we had the problem here, and then he reached out. So, and he was just down in Blythe, but he still lived in Yucca Valley. So it was, so that's how.
What you got, Sid?
I was just going to say that we did use a recruiting firm, but we also had people locally and internally apply as well. So it was both, and it wasn't just people from other states.
Yeah, got
Just
it.
like Frank. I mean, we had a few other local people that did.
All right, okay,
So you can get both using the recruiter as well.
yeah. Yeah, I remember one guy brought his portfolio.
I'm definitely on those guys on that side of the dais. I think internally and close to home is a lot better than having an assistant city manager from, say, where it's nice and cold, Wisconsin, and they come out here and they see the desert and they go, what? No 4 seasons? I don't think this is going to be good for me. So what a waste of money we had on that one. So I think it's just, if we can HR can get the word out to the regional, I think that'd be a good way to go. And like Danny said, if we don't find anybody in there, then we might have to spend a little bit of money to go farther out. But I think we would be able to find somebody in our scope.
Concur.
Yeah, me too. All right. Oh, I already brought it to the public.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion that we use our HR department to.
Yeah. All right, okay. Yeah, we good.
Well, I'll make a motion that we use our HR as an internal recruitment for the city manager.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Klink,
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Builderain.
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
All right.
For the last time in recruiting.
Future council initiated items. Anybody got one? I had one, but I can't remember. I didn't write it down.
I actually do. We are having a problem with the peacocks. I think that we need to have an ordinance that they are a wild animal and that they should not be fed.
Okay.
Can we make that, expand that to just any wild animal? Is that, because what?
This comes out with bobcats. I mean,
Well, so
we have specifically right now pigeons and coyotes.
So Rick has told me there's so meat eaters are there is laws out there for.
Oh,
meat
okay,
eaters.
okay.
So,
I just thought if we're gonna do this, let's encompass all of it. But so if it's already out there, that's fine. Thank you.
But let me just, because I'm just thinking in my head, I guess squirrels. I don't know if they're meat eaters. So I mean, you could, I don't. So do you want to keep it just at?
I'm fine, he said
Okay,
peacock, so
all
I'm fine with that.
They can add more. I mean,
We have a squirrel issue in Lucky Park right now.
do we? Well, maybe we should add the squirrels on there because they're saying they're having problems with squirrels in Lucky Park. They shouldn't be feeding them.
Okay. Add squirrels too. We're good.
No, they are cute, but they can give you.
We're not gonna get rid of them.
No,
You can't feed them.
they got to find their own food.
All right. I still can't remember, so we'll move on. Public comments. This is the time for the public to address the city council on issues within the jurisdiction of the city council that are not on this agenda. All comments are to be directed to the city council and shall not consist of any personal attack. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during their comments. There is a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you haven't already done so, please fill out name and address slips and give them to the city clerk. The city council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. Public comments on specific agenda items will be deferred until consideration of the item on the agenda. I have Carolee Hargrove.
I want to go over a couple of things. Thank you for the Plus program coming. We went back and the kids did thank you cards. I believe they were delivered here, so I hope you had an opportunity to read them.
Yes, I did.
We went back and we did a whole thank you, and it was great for those kids because those are some pretty, tough kids, so that was cool. Let's go over the sewer real quick. Since the USGS study is 5 years long, if we wanted to, we could just be good stewards of the state and just say, hey, maybe this $50 million can go to Yucca to maybe offset theirs if we're not going to use it. I don't know. It's a 5-year study, so by that time trying to think of how to keep it cool with everyone else. Pioneer Days. Wasn't Pioneer Days so great? Oh my gosh. It was like the hallmark moment, guys, except for the outhouse that I constructed from a construction class held by CMC. I highly recommend it to everybody. Well, my husband put the bar on, and when San Bernardino County Sheriff Department and the city went against each other, the city took out the cops, the bar broke off. It was a whole thing, but it was loads of fun. It was really, really fun. And it was so nice seeing our sheriffs out there participating for the public. I love it. Hiring a new city manager. I love what you guys just did. If you don't know, sometimes I have experience hiring. We've hired from outside, and it hasn't worked out that great because you kind of have to understand our community. We're different, right? And if you're watching, come welcome, because they'll be watching the city council meetings to see what we got. I've got some issues with the homeless by 7-Eleven. Fentanyl's a big deal. We didn't hear that from the sheriff. I was kind of hoping we would hear about some drugs, but I have heard of some fentanyl being over there, and I actually know of somebody who passed away 2 weeks ago from a fentanyl overdose. He was a neighbor of mine. So that's pretty rough. So if we can look at the drug usage here. And last, Frank. Oh my gosh. I've known Frank since I was on the board. We've worked together. I want to thank you for being so inclusive to our special needs community. I think Frank and I got to know each other because we both have kids. And he did that wonderful playground with the wheelchair ramp and everything else, which we don't have anywhere else. So when you're hiring somebody, please look that they're going to care about our special need adults, kids, and hopefully bring in a splash pad, because that's where I'd want to see. But no, really, Frank, you've just been an absolute blessing to the community, even when we didn't agree. Standout guy. Desert Hot Springs, gosh, maybe I'll have to move to Desert Hot Springs now, because they're very, very lucky. But no, really, thank you, Council, for a great Pioneer Days. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Ms. Leanne Clark.
Thank you. And I want to kind of piggyback off of what Carol Lee said. Thank you, City of 29 Palms, for the 87th Annual Pioneer Days. And also especially thank you for including our church community in the festivities. We do have a large church community here, and we do appreciate the fact that we are a part of this great time of year that we celebrate in October. And we did have our sunrise service on Sunday. We raised $306 that will go towards the Morongo Basin Arch for the homeless programs that they have. So each of the services we do take an offering, and we actually donate to a designated local nonprofit. that does amazing things for the people in our community that are in need. I also want to thank Kurt for coming out that morning and being a part of it. And I do want to tell you the theme, Party Like It's 1987. Don't think that those ministers didn't come up with some clever things to share. They really did some research and went back on the trivia of 1987. And so we actually had quite a history lesson during that service. So again, thank you for letting us participate. And Frank, I've been on this journey with you, serving on the PAAC for 4 years out of the 8 years you were here, being involved with the murals with Action Council for Twentynine, your support of the murals, and of course the Ministerial Association. And so kind of like what Carolee said, it's just been wonderful that you have been open to everything that we have here. And I do think you were here more in Twentynine than you have been in Yucca. So, but I just want to personally thank you on behalf of the organizations I've been involved in and with the PAAC, and they're doing a beautiful job as well. So God bless you. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Larry, for coming out of retirement. And this is a time that we all look forward to, but that you knew there was a call for need, and you stepped up to the plate. And I just want to personally thank you. And I've worked with Larry over the years as well. So as Mayor Wright said, we are in excellent hands. So thank you so much.
You mean Dana needed some alone time, so she said get out. I know it. I can just hear it.
Okay, next we have Andrew Fulbright.
Okay, I just want to make a statement about Mr. Luckino. He's leaving, the city manager. I've only seen this gentleman a couple of times, but it's clear to me why he was such a good city manager. He has a love for the community. He has a love for the desert community. And you know, I'm from Los Angeles originally. I've been up here a few years. And it's not about knowledge, how much you know as a city manager. What I'm trying to say is a city manager from a very large city probably wouldn't work out here that well. A city manager that has a love for this type of community is what you should be looking for. And basically, that's all I want to say about that. And the sheriff, I didn't get a chance to thank him. Some of our other communities, maybe you guys can relate what I'm getting ready to say right now. Some of our other communities, it's really bad in terms of what the sheriffs are doing. This sheriff, I saw him speak, and I wanted to tell him that what he's doing and his officers, what they're doing up here is exemplary. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can attest to that. And I really didn't get a chance to thank him for the job that him and his officers are doing up here. I really appreciate it. Okay.
Hey, Captain, you'll relay that message, right? He got you. And yes, Carolee, I did get those cards. I didn't share them with Steve. I kept them for myself because I thought they were outstanding and awesome. So,
there was one that I would love for you to share with the council that was written about praying for his dad.
Okay, I will. All right, I'll share it then. Yeah. All right. I was getting ready to skip it again. City manager update.
You know, I don't have any more updates than I, said before. But again, just thank you. Thanks for allowing me to be your manager.
Well, I do want to take a moment of updating as far as with Frank, and I do want to thank you for your professionalism through all these years and your friendship and just your care about our city. And you'll be missed, but you better be around.
Yeah, I'm golfing.
Don't change your number.
Same cell phone. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
8.5 years ago, I gave Frank the keys of the city. I won't use what acronym I was gonna say, but he gave it back. I hope you guys find somebody that's anywhere near as good as him. And I'll give them the keys too, but you better be sure I like them.
We got it. All right.
And thank you, Shannon, and your family for renting him out to us for the last 8.5 years, because I know he's been over here a lot. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes.
And I also didn't get the opportunity to thank Frank. I'm the newest council member. I'm the only council member that didn't have the opportunity to hire Frank. However, one thing I will say is once I was elected, even before I was sworn in, Frank reached out to me and was inviting me to events and making me feel comfortable. And I appreciate that. And he's always been very professional and very respectful. And he's always, every time there was a concern that I brought forward because of one of my constituents, he addressed it immediately. And so I appreciate that. I wish you and your family the best.
Yep, like Steve said, you can't change your number though.
Got it, yeah. Go
Yeah.
Steelers, eh?
We know where you work anyway. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. So tonight, I'm gonna adjourn this meeting on behalf of two people in our community that have passed away. One of them is Bert Frazier, and the other one is Josephine Pizarro. And at one time, I really thought that Josephine was the oldest living person in Twentynine because she was 101 years old. She just passed away Saturday. So adjourning this meeting tonight in the memory of Bert Frazier and Josephine Pizarro.